Ever notice how some countries with abundant natural resources still struggle with poverty? You're witnessing what economists call the resource curse, a complex phenomenon where natural wealth doesn't always translate to prosperity. International aid systems and financial institutions can create dependencies and unintended consequences that affect entire economies. Today, we're going to explore how global economic policies influence developing nations, and why understanding these systems matters more to your life than you might think. Number 1. The crisis call. Let's start with what happens when a country faces financial crisis. Picture this. You're the finance minister of a developing nation, your currency is collapsing, and your people are rioting over rising food prices. While the International Monetary Fund is often the first call made for emergency assistance, it's not your only option. Regional development banks, the World Bank, and bilateral agreements with other nations can also provide crucial support. Number 2. When crisis becomes profit. Argentina's 2001 economic crisis illustrates how international financial policies can have devastating local consequences. The IMF's structural adjustment programs and insistence on maintaining the peso-dollar peg proved problematic as the economy deteriorated. While these policies were intended to stabilize the economy, they contributed to the severity of the crisis. The subsequent debt restructuring and privatization programs did benefit international corporations, though this was part of standard crisis response rather than a predetermined plan. Number 3. The fine print nobody reads. When countries sign IMF agreements, they typically agree to economic reform programs with specific conditions. Historically called structural adjustment programs, these have evolved significantly since the 2000s. While past programs often included similar conditions like fiscal consolidation, privatization, and trade liberalization, modern IMF programs are more tailored to individual country circumstances and developed through consultation processes, with greater emphasis on protecting vulnerable populations. Number 4. Structural adjustment reality. Countries rich in oil, minerals, or agricultural land often face economic pressures when seeking IMF assistance. The IMF's structural adjustment programs typically require reforms like trade liberalization, privatization of state enterprises, and fiscal austerity. While these policies don't explicitly mandate selling resources below market value, they can open domestic markets to foreign competition and investment, potentially making it easier for multinational corporations to access these resources. Venezuela sits on the world's largest proven oil reserves. Number 5. The privatization push. What happens next reveals the harsh reality of structural adjustment. As countries struggle under loan conditions, they're pressured to privatize state-owned assets to reduce government spending and generate revenue. International lenders heavily influence this process through policy conditionalities, often requiring privatization programs as part of loan agreements, though the actual sales are conducted by national governments. Number 6. IMF programs, complex outcomes. International Monetary Fund assistance programs have shown mixed results across different countries and time periods. While some countries have struggled economically despite or after receiving IMF support, others have experienced recovery and growth. The effectiveness of these programs depends on factors including implementation quality, external economic conditions, and country-specific circumstances. IMF conditionality typically focuses on fiscal discipline, monetary policy reforms, and structural adjustments, with debates continuing among economists about their optimal design and impact on development. Number 7. International constraints on governance. Even when countries elect leaders promising change, those leaders face significant constraints from existing international commitments. Loan agreements can influence budget priorities, particularly for heavily indebted nations. Trade treaties create binding obligations that limit policy flexibility. While these agreements constrain options, democratically elected leaders retain substantial power to renegotiate terms, withdraw from agreements, or find alternative approaches within existing frameworks, though such decisions often involve economic trade-offs. Number 8. The trap goes global. What most people don't realize is that this system doesn't stop at developing countries. The same institutions are now targeting middle-income nations facing economic stress. Greece privatized key assets, including stakes in major ports and airports, as part of bailout conditions. Ireland guaranteed private bank debts during its banking crisis. Number 9. How global economics affects daily life. Global economic systems create complex interconnections that affect local communities. Economic disparities between regions, influenced by factors including debt structures, governance, historical context, natural resources, and market access, can contribute to migration patterns, resource competition, and economic volatility. These broader trends interact with local policies and conditions to shape everyday economic realities. The next time you hear about a country receiving international aid or debt relief, remember what you've learned today. You're not watching charity. You're watching the most sophisticated system of economic control ever created. Understanding this changes everything about how you see global poverty, migration, trade wars, and even the economic pressures in your own country. The question isn't whether this system will continue, it's whether enough people will recognize it for what it really is.